Let's get started. Dear Heavenly Father, please help us to make the right decisions for Alcona County. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Yax,
Here.
Johnston,
Here.
Brumman,
Here.
Reggie,
Here.
Long.
Here. I didn't go fast. I'll take a motion to approve minutes from March 5th.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Public comment, 3 minutes per person. Identify yourself and your township. No public comments today. Moving on. No presentations today. No unfinished business today. Break the claims, boss.
I'd like to make a motion to approve pre-authorized claims and open claims presented for payment between March 5th of 25 and March 18th of 25 for check numbers 157-008 to 157-141 and e-checks 2583 to 2591 for a grand total of $451,478.58.
I will second. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Roll call, please.
Long,
Yes.
Brumman,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Reggie,
Yes.
Yax.
Yes.
Registered deeds full-time position. I'll take point on this. I want to open with, my desire for Alcona County is to someday have every office be fully staffed without having to rely on elected officials to do the lion's share of the work. I.e., elected position doesn't have any credentials. You just have to be the most popular person in the county. You can be the clerk, the sheriff, the treasurer, whatever you want. And to that note, I think it's important to have enough staff in each office to try to achieve that. Is it realistic right now? Probably not, but I think it's a realistic goal to work towards. With that being said, I have to propose that we have a part-time position in the Register of Deeds office that Melissa has been for quite a long time, been lobbying to make that a full-time position. A few different reasons. Number one is every time something better comes up in the county, she loses her employee. And another is just, so in that department, if somebody's on vacation or they get sick, you have somebody to man the window. This isn't quite exactly to fit what she exactly wants right now, but there is an opportunity in the equalization department where we need to update our records and get some of the handwritten records uploaded to a digital system, so that it's all more easy to reference for not only us, but people who purchased this right to come in and look at the information. So proposed is to have Melissa's employee become a full-time employee in 12 hours, a 40-hour full-time employee, and 12 hours of that would be doing this position at the in equalization. And I'll do a brief read of the description. Employee in this position may be called upon to do any and you all, I got a copy this morning, essential duties, enter building and land data from hard property cards into BSNA, draw land sketches using Apex and import sketches of BSNA. A lot of, this is all kind of repetitive, but at the end of the day, it's my hopes is to kind of use this as a vehicle to get the Registered Deeds office full-time staff. Now, this is with the understanding that if for any reason that employee in the Registered Deeds office needs to be there and can't go do this particular new task 1 week for whatever reason, sickness, vacation, and they need coverage, that flexibility will exist for Melissa to be able to flex around that. But the ultimate goal is to have 12 hours a week, committed to this project. Some caveats for this is that, there's gonna be a 90-day, introductory period. That if for whatever reason, the commissioners, feel that she may not be a fit for this job, I don't anticipate this happening, but you have to have protections. We at 90 days would return to a part-time situation. Another caveat is that this, full-time would be dependent on, would be through and dependent on the completion of this project for equalization. And once that project is complete, then would return to a full-time 35-hour position at the Register of Deeds office. But what we don't want to have happen is that, I'm gonna do this for, not anticipating this is gonna happen, but you have to have coverage. That I'm only gonna do this for 6 months and then go back to just be full-time Register of Deeds. So until this project is deemed complete or by the Board of Commissioners, that will be the caveat of having to be this 40-hour employee. So to
That is addressed in MOU too.
Yep, so it'd be 37 hours a week at the Register of Deeds and 12 hours in equalization doing this project. Any questions? Oh, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the memorandum. To approve and have the chairman sign the memorandum of understanding between Oconee County and Teamsters 214 for the purpose of what I just explained.
Okay, you said 27, I think.
I 28, you're right, go ahead. That's well.
How long are we expecting this project to go on?
So
As
it's
far as the time,
forecasted at this point to be up to 3 years.
3 years.
There's a lot of records get imported, and
Okay.
even at a fast pace, let's say you can get a record done in 15 minutes.
Mhm.
There's a lot to find.
27,000 record cards.
Yeah.
Gotta be
Yeah.
Done.
And another good thing to bring up here is this was a good, equalization, Register of Deeds and the treasurer's office are all interconnected when it comes to these property descriptions of cards. So this is just another good way to bridge the gap between these three, and have some good learning opportunities for this employee, so. Anybody else have comments? Okay, then I'm going to ask for a roll call.
Yax,
Yes.
Brumman,
No,
Small,
Yes,
Johnston,
Yes.
Brady.
Yes. Motion carries.
I think what we'll do in there is figure out update and see where we're at. How far along we are. And how that's going. Thank you.
We get the finance report. We met today and spoke about the audit. Well, I'll let Cheryl explain the audit when she does treasury report. But we wanted to make sure that Dave and I were gonna be there for the important points whenever we needed to. Luckily, that's also a week of regular meeting, so we'll be there Wednesday for sure. We talked about the funding for the position that we just talked about. And this needs to be mentioned, I think, it's the state of Michigan has reduced the amount that for the veterans grant. And so we took that, I passed that information on to the clerks in the treasurer's office to, make amendments to the budget. It's
7,000.
something to change, off the 60-some-thousand that they're
They
getting.
hadn't spent it. Some counties did spend it
Yeah,
and they're in a pickle.
so it's disappointing, but this is how things happen.
those are the other three. The general fund that needed the amendment, final. The general fund,
Oh,
sheriff's fund 268. there were two, and there's a total was on the bottom. There was an increase in the general fund, a decrease in the sheriff's law enforcement two fund.
Okay.
For the that was the only changes that were made
Okay,
to change the bottom line of those budgets. One was decreased, one was increased. No connection.
do we need to vote on this? Yeah,
That was the bottom line.
get copies?
Yeah, I did, but you don't want that.
No, that's a different one.
Oh,
I'll let you guys
Sure.
share.
What's the building inspection like?
The building inspection, I got an email this morning from, Dan Gothier. It was one we discussed in a prior meeting in regards to the, printer that was going to be purchased, and you were waiting on some numbers. Those are the numbers that he did not get forwarded to everyone. And I told him, when I received the email this morning, that I would present that to you. You have already talked about it. You approved the purchase of that. And the bottom line changes. Did I even say something?
Then under office supplies, is that what that number? is?
They have it under office supplies, but due to the cost of it, I would recommend that you put it under equipment charges as an equipment as opposed to office supplies. That would be the only thing that I had.
no, you're
That
dead.
seem appropriate.
The overall budget, because it'll have to be listed on the properties that we own, that the county owns. And it looks like overall it reduces the budget 150907. I put that, I don't know why I put that penny in there. Cause I just copied what he had,
Great,
so that'll be changed to 1510,
even
a
numbers.
decrease, or 1508. I apologize, Brian.
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve, bottom line, adjustments and I'm gonna do them all at once. Fund 101.
101?
One, they. No, she doesn't have that one.
Huh?
She
Oh,
doesn't have that one.
here.
Explain that one again, or that's the same one? Give me a brief.
2024 budget amendments that were being done throughout the year, the revenues that came in after, without, previous notification, and any that came in received from the state, or any other bills that went out that we weren't informed of, we couldn't put them in the budget, so ending up with 4526 more than anticipated, we had to raise the bottom line of the budget 4526, also to cover bills that were not anticipated or accounted for prior to the end of the year.
Okay.
So that being said, the total increase to the bottom line of the general fund, which you see from 1,432,183 to 1,436,709 and change on both.
I'll move to accept the modifications for the general fund for 2024 as presented.
I'll second. Moved to seconded. Any more questions, comments?
I'm
Roll.
sorry, I didn't have that.
Yeah, roll call, no problem.
Small,
Yes.
Yax,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Brady,
Yes,
Brumman.
Yes,
and I think that's it for finance report today. We are going to resume regular meetings at 11 a.m. Every Wednesday of commissioners meeting. We had some scheduling conflicts. We have to do the zoning.
Was there an approval on all of them?
Oh,
I was only.
oh, we had the building one or two?
You just said.
We were gonna do them all, but I
You
think
said-
Carolyn was only one. Just the one.
Oh,
Yes,
The other two,
No.
I also move that.
no, she said as presented, the whole, everything is presented.
you only said 101, you didn't get any further.
I know what I said, but she just, I didn't,
You said 101,
oh,
and I
my,
said 101?
you're right.
No, you didn't
I
finish.
got 249. I didn't have a copy of.
And then she came in and said, as presented, make these changes to the bottom line.
Karina, you picked the notes with you.
I heard 101.
I have both.
Oh,
I
just
didn't
101?
hear the,
Just 101.
Okay.
in her motion.
All right, so, make a motion to approve the changes to Fund 268 as presented. Can I get a second?
Second.
We got all the seconds. We'll take Craig on that one, I guess.
Sure, man.
268.
That's
Oh, that's 268. Sorry, I was.
All those, roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Yax,
Yes.
Small,
Yep.
Brady,
Yes,
Brummer.
Yes.
and then that's it, right?
249.
249. I'll make a motion to, apply the changes to bottom line 249.
Second.
Who to second it? Any comments? Roll call.
Yax,
Yes.
Brumman,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Small,
Yes.
Brady.
Yes. So many motion. Now are we done? Looks like it. Personnel report. We worked on basically today, the paperwork for, the new position or the modified position. Craig, anything else we bring up today? No, I don't think so either. We'll do the treasurer's report.
Working with the townships, we are finally at the end. We had 3 townships. We had to call and see where we were and where the money was. So they're sending them, we got one yesterday. We're gonna have, we just have 2 more outstanding from the collections that have been done. We got a bunch of all the townships basically cleaned up. Any discrepancies and questions that we had were all answered. We ended up, right now, we have 2,573 properties that were turned over as delinquent for 2024. The 2023s are at 379. Those are in forfeiture. Those are the properties that went from delinquency to forfeiture this year. And we are waiting for those 53 different properties to be paid before March 31st, before we have to foreclose. We have the payment arrangements with one individual in regards to that. The claims that I spoke of prior were, there were 651 claims for between 2020 and 2015. Intent to process or intent to claim proceeds letters were sent out. We have 9 returned to us completed. And they do have till the end of the year to do that. And I do not have the numbers because we're waiting for to see who files the claims, and then we'll have a better understanding. We will be sending out delinquent bills by the end of the month and paying out the townships, hopefully the first or second week in April prior to the auditor's arrival. We will be here the 13th through the week of the 13th, which is 14, 15, 16, and 17, because we do not have, we're not open on the 18th. But if need be, for normal, we'll accommodate to make sure we get everything taken care of before they leave. I know there was a jury trial and there was a question in regards to where we would have them, because we generally have them in the jury room set up with computers. Talk to the courts and they believe that we will be able to use the secondary jury room because we also have a meeting here on the 15th. So we're working to get them in a place where they can keep their equipment as well. And other than working on the tax, that's about all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you very much. Clerk's report.
Our clerk is on vacation this week. We did, however, have 2 post-election audits, that were required by the state. One was for Millen Township for their early voting. So Steph and I actually completed that before she went on vacation, and it came out spot on. And submitted that to the state, and then on Monday, we had a Haynes Township post-election audit, which is completed and was submitted to the state on Tuesday and came out spot on. So we've been basically working on those and getting ready for the next election.
Do you have to do all the townships?
No, they usually just request one, but in this scenario this year, they wanted an early voting one and a separate township altogether. So we did actually 3 audits this year because the state actually came in and did Mitchell Township, and that one came out good. That wasn't a problem.
Thank you very much. The sheriff is currently not here today, so we'll not be getting your. I didn't even see the sneak in there, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can meet it,
Pull it
Dave.
right up.
So just a couple of things I want to talk about, what we've been doing recently. I'm gonna talk about training and a little bit about what our activity has been so far, since the beginning of the year. Recently, we had, crisis intervention training that was put on through, Partners in Prevention. Didn't cost us anything. And it was actually put on by Dr. Wolf, who is a renowned psychiatrist, works downstate. He's done stuff with the federal government, done stuff overseas. So pretty big deal for him to be, in our community and especially in the little town of Barton City. We were able to send the majority of our deputies. Two of our sergeants had gone last year, so I didn't send them again. But otherwise, the rest of our staff went, to that training. It was the first 4 hours, it was an 8-hour training. The first 4 hours was really geared more towards, first responders. So we opened that up to, fire department, EMS, and then there were some other people there as well from, Catholic Human Services and so forth. But some pretty good training. Again, deals with people that are having, maybe some type of mental issue, that our deputies are going out on. How to respond to them, how to de-escalate that situation, which is always important. The last half of that 8-hour training was actually opened up to, more like, the people that work here at the courthouse. There's people from the Alpena Oklahoma Credit Union that were there, and some different organizations. So they were there, their training dealt more with, you get an angry customer comes to the desk, how do you de-escalate that situation? There were people from our court system there and some of the other offices, so we actually had a better turnout, than they've had at other trainings that they put on up in Alpena and actually larger communities. They were very impressed, with the number of people that we were able to get out and get to this training. So we did that. That was on the 5th. Any questions about that?
What was the participation for the first responders and?
Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody from EMS. We did have a couple people from, local fire departments.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, so, I wanna say maybe 2 or 3.
Okay.
So, but it was during the day too, so.
Oh, yeah, everybody's got a
A
job.
little bit different, everybody's gotta work, so,
Was this just for us, this county?
well, no, they're actually traveling around all of northern Michigan, and what they're trying to do
Oh,
is they're trying to compile, not just do this training, but also compile information on what kind of resources
mhm.
are out there and available so that they can put a plan together, because the problem is, Lansing is coming up with these plans of, okay, this is how you're gonna deal with people that are, that are having a mental illness and psychological disorders, and how you're gonna deal with them. The problem is, like the crisis intervention training, when we look at the model policy of how they've set that up, it's a person that's riding with a deputy, okay? The problem is that these calls, you never know when they're gonna come in. They could be in the morning, they could be at night, they could be at 3 o'clock in the morning. So the idea of putting somebody with them to ride around in the hopes that, maybe they're gonna respond to something, it would not be cost effective. So what they're trying to do, and that's why it's Partners in Prevention and this company that Dr. Wolf runs and some other people, what they're trying to do is they're trying to compile the resources so that they can go to Lansing and say, okay, we get it. Your plan that you have works for Wayne County, it works for Kent County, works for some of these larger metropolitan areas. But when we're talking about northern Michigan, that's very rural, that doesn't work. That one plan fits all isn't gonna work for us. So that's what they're trying to do. And trying to get community mental health involved and how do we get people the help that they want? So that's what the plan is here eventually, so.
You mentioned cost involved in this, so.
There was no cost for this class. That was paid for through a grant that they got. So, and like I said, they're traveling all over Northern Michigan. I think after they were done with us, the next day they were going to, Traverse City or something like that, so.
How big a team was this doing this?
Well, it's Dr. Wolf and he has different people that are in his company, but there's, I think there's 3 or 4 that were with him. So Dr. Wolf does most of the talking, but, you know. And actually I knew Dr. Wolf. Dr. Wolf was actually, our psychiatrist that we used for, background investigations and any type of other issues that officers would be having when they worked in Canton, so, yeah. So I knew him. So, you know, any other questions about that? Okay, a little bit, what we're doing for training this year, we've joined a new consortium, through Kirtland Community College. We used to belong to them a long time ago, and then it kind of disbanded. And then we joined this Northern Michigan Law Enforcement Training Group. The idea of a consortium is, you know, everybody puts in some money, and then you can send your officers there or your deputies there either for free or for a reduced cost. So when we joined this Northern Michigan Law Enforcement Group, the training just was not coming. They would list things, but then those trainings never happened, okay? So what we did, last year was Kirtland Community College got another grant, to start this program back up. So we've joined in with a lot of other agencies from Northern Michigan, in this consortium. So what it does is for a minimal cost, we can send deputies to these trainings for free. So we did that. And then on top of that, what we've also done is back in 2019, this is really kind of old news, but, back in 2019, when the sheriff and I first came into office, one of the things we realized was that we needed to have a way to send deputies to training that was more cost effective, okay? I mean, if I've got to take a deputy and I've got to send them 4 hours away to training, and I got to send them the night before, I've got to pay them for that, I've got to pay for the hotel, I've got to pay for their food, I've got to pay for the training. So our plan was, we joined Lexipol's Police One Academy, so it's online. So a lot of this training now that the state is requiring us to have, we can do right here. You know, 1 hour, 2 hour classes that the deputies can do while they're working. So we joined that back in 2019. Again, minimal cost. I think this year for our whole staff, it cost us maybe $800. So, and if you've ever looked at the cost of a training class will cost you more than $800. Some of them will cost you more than $800 or close to it. So, so we did that. The new state requirements I mentioned, you know about that. I think the sheriff talked to you about that. We get funding from the state. They've set that aside, but we're going beyond the state's minimum, okay? So for example, the state's minimum for firearms training, and we've always exceeded this, but, or since I've been here, since I was first put in charge of the firearms program, but what we do is the state requires us to do that once a year. We do it a minimum of twice a year and make sure that one of those is during low light, so at nighttime, okay? Because we know that if there's an officer involved shooting, there's a possibility that it could happen in the dark. So we do that. The same thing with our active, what they now call active aggression. They used to call it active shooter training. We're gonna do that again this year. We did part of the group, part of our team last year. We're gonna do another part of them this year. The state's requirement is that you do it once. Not once a year, once, okay? Well, the idea that you're gonna have a deputy that's gonna go through this training, maybe gets it he or she gets it in the academy, and then isn't gonna get it for the rest of their career, that doesn't sit well with us. So, so we're gonna do that. That'll be biannually, and we've got them split up into groups. So that'll work. But again, that's going beyond what the state's minimum requirement is. Also this year, we've got through that consortium, I've got deputies signed up for, emergency vehicle operations, so, they'll be doing that, legal update, and then there's some other courses that are out there as well. Some of the stuff that we're gonna do, like defensive tactics and things like that, we can do that right here. We don't need to have instructors come in from outside. We have our own in-house instructors. Same thing with the active aggression class. We have our own instructor that does that. So we're not relying on somebody else. And then so far this year alone, the deputies have already completed 107 hours of training. So as a group, 107 hours. I gave you some paperwork. That's just basically spelling out, some of the things that we've done since the beginning of the year. So if you look at this page here, the first page, it basically lists all of our, how many complaints we've handled, how many follow-up investigations. Those are the larger numbers you can see. So for complaints, so when I say complaints, I mean calls for service. Okay, so somebody calls us and we have deputies respond. We've had 721 of those, and then 935 follow-up investigations. So, one call for service may involve, 3 or 4 different follow-up investigations. That's why that number is higher. Traffic stops, 233. And then you can see, the number of citations, the number of warnings there. And then, we've made 40 arrests so far this year. I highlighted the complaint investigation time. If you notice in the right column, that's actually the times that we've spent in each of those areas. And we break that down so that we know how much time we're spending in each township, how much we're spending in the city of Harrisville and so forth. But if you look at that, I highlighted that because I think that's kind of interesting, the number of, the amount of time that we're spending on complaints and follow-up investigations. So complaint time, we spent 1,557 hours and some change. Follow-up investigation, again, another 556. So if you look at that, that's over 2,000 hours that we've spent on basically criminal investigations, calls for service. If you look at the next page, I broke that down into a pie chart. So you can see the orange and the blue. The orange is actually our follow-up investigations. The blue is our calls for service. So basically, that's 76% of our time is spent on complaints or calls for service. If I was to show you the amount of patrol time compared to our time that we spend on complaints and investigations, I'm going to tell you that our complaint and investigation time is more than our patrol time. Usually at most police agencies or law enforcement agencies, your patrol time should actually be significantly higher than your complaint time. The reason why we have that is because we operate at minimum staff. Okay, so and our investigations, our deputies, we don't pass something off to a detective bureau. So the deputy that handles the complaint is the investigator. All right, any questions about that?
Quick question on, we still have the residential state police?
We haven't had one in a while.
We haven't,
No.
so there's no added time that they're taking?
No, there may be some, but they wouldn't be on this report.
Right.
So like if you look at our numbers, I think we're at like 786 or something like that. So for total numbers that dispatch is taken in, those numbers, that would show you how many that the state police have taken. But some of those numbers too aren't gonna show up on here because maybe those daily activity reports haven't been cleared by the sergeant. So.
We used to have, and we still do not, contracts with some of the townships for extra patrol. Does that figure into any of this?
The only contract that we have, is with the city of Harrisville. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have contracts with, as far as patrol time and stuff with any of the townships.
Did they feel Curtis long ago?
What's that?
Curtis, didn't they have one long ago?
They may have, not since I've been under sheriff, I know that.
about parks?
We used to, yeah, we used to have that in the, if that's what you're thinking about, we used to have that with the parks, with Elkhorn Park in the summertime. Yeah, but we don't have that anymore.
So would those numbers be in here or are they separate?
We don't have a contract. with-
If you did.
If we did, yes, it would show that
So
in
the
there,
city of
but
Harrisville contract numbers are in here.
yes, yeah, the city of Harrisville, like, if you look at their time here on the side, you can see how much time we spend in each township and again, the city of Harrisville. And then I break that down every month, so that that can get billed to the city of Harrisville for our time, how many, and then they know how many complaints we handled in the city, how many arrests we had, how many traffic stops we had.
Well, Harrisville Township takes up a lot of time.
It does, it does, but remember, they're gonna have a little bit more time because of how close they are.
Oh, yeah,
You
sure.
know. That's one of the issues that our deputies have is when they do try to get out to the west, a lot of times, especially during the day, they get out there, they get called back, so. Any other
Well,
questions?
Harrisville Township's important.
Yeah. Greg would agree.
All bad.
Any other questions about that?
No, doesn't appear so. Thank you very much. Excellent.
Wonderful, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't see you sneak in there.
No, it's all right.
Committee reports, Carolyn?
Sure, let me get back to that paper. Pretty much routine. We had a club meeting to review the bids for the lake treatment. And they're out for, the advertised and the initial activity started in January, but then we filtered through it, got our final one and it's going out. Had a meeting for the watershed, Cedar Lake Watershed Management Plan. It's time to do another one. We had one that we did about 15 years ago. Evo and DGQ wants to do another one. And so we will be working on that through the summer. 911 authority routine board meeting, pretty much routine. Had our opioid committee, committee meeting on Monday. We are scheduling, if you recall, last fall, we had a session introducing the Narcan treatment and demonstrating how it is used and when it's used. We're going to do another one on April 29th. It will be at 6 p.m. and it will be in the EMS building. We'll have flyers coming out of that within a couple of weeks. Had a finance meeting for ACCOA, things are looking good over there. Had a 211 executive board meeting yesterday. And if I can jump back to the opioid for a minute, if you recall, I told you about 2 meetings or so ago that there was, that Memory had $1 million to be spent on opioid things, prevention, treatment, and recovery. I also told you at that time that Alcona, we submitted a request for $100,000 to Memory, and it was going to be for things for the new building at Sunrise Center. Well, we're still in the running. As I said back then, I don't think we're gonna get it, but at least we're still in the running because they wanted to make sure that all of our $100,000 was going to be spent on the patients, not on staff. But with the new building, we've got beds, mattresses, dressers, tables for the kitchen, tables for the dining room area, all couches and chairs and things for the classrooms. So, we easily can do that. So I'm not gonna stop breathing. till we get it, but,
Well, stay breathing after we get it too.
pardon?
Still breathe after we get it,
Yeah,
if you would.
it'll, I will be excited if we get it, but at least we're still in the running.
Where is Sunrise? Where's it at? Where's Sunrise? Alpena?
By the new Boys and Girls Club.
Right. Can I ask you a question about the house down on county line?
Ernest?
What's the progress on
There's your,
that?
I just saw a thing on it, a rather extensive thing.
TikTok,
TikTok, yeah.
that Zach Williams has a TikTok presentation.
Which we looked at our
I can't
meeting.
get there to email me, I can't,
Pardon?
can't get you to email me, I can't see you getting on TikTok.
What is TikTok?
Yeah.
You can show off your
Don't
dance
worry
skills.
about it, you're fine with that, I don't have to, do it. Don't worry, that doesn't make it right or wrong,
Okay,
anyways.
but anyway,
Anyway,
things
it's
are going
progressing.
down there.
It is progressing.
Very good.
They ran into some obstacles. Inspector came through and they had 4-inch pipe that ran under the concrete. They had to take them out and put in 6-inch pipe.
See.
So they run into those kinds of problems. And it is an old building. My gosh, we used to take our dogs up there in this.
I don't
You
know.
wouldn't know about the 60s.
Yeah, I would know about the 60s, yes, I would. Thank you.
Anyway, it's slower than Zach Williams would like,
Mhm.
but it is moving.
Thank you.
Yep.
Terry,
Attended the meetings with Michigan Works, NEMSCA and CMH. It's all about funding, people. It's that easy, it's funding. Everybody's a little bit worried about, the feds, you know, there's two of these agencies are definitely, are funded by them, so it's all about funding right now. And what they're gonna get down the road,
Or not.
you never know, you never know. Big subject, just I'll give you, for instance, Tim's got 90% of Head Start is federal. Senior citizens, 90%. Something like that from feds, 80?
No, 20. 20 from the feds, 80 from property tax. Of our whole budget.
Really? I'll have to get with you, and I'd like to talk to you about that then. Anyway, it's all funding.
okay, Dave,
A couple township meetings, Alcona Township actually has bids out for, they're gonna build a new pavilion with indoor bathrooms. They're wanting to do that this year. I was at a Northern Michigan Association of Counties meeting this week. They were talking about road funding. This year they are going to work, they want to work from the bottom up. Means they're gonna give most of the money for roads to the local counties. And they're gonna build up to the freeways. Usually MDOT gets 39% of the budget. This year they're gonna get 10%. They're gonna put a lot of money back into the local areas. And I guess Craig can talk about that, you know, probably more, but we did get 77 letters of, from elected officials for our BEAD grant. They were really surprised on that, so. You talked about that, I think you said, so that's.
Okay, so, veterans meeting yesterday, we're continuing to work on we brought the vehicle policy. So Tom had a little more tweaking, he's working with Tony. They're gonna look at it again in 2 weeks at their meeting, and then we'll probably have it then. It's not time sensitive, so it's not an issue, but they continue to work on that. Another issue with them, so we alluded to it with their funding issue with the grant, and then NBAA, there was an accounting problem at NBAA, $3.6 million at the state level that they didn't get accounted, so they had to cut everybody. What's more interesting, so Cam Cabot's gonna be here on Friday. there's two groups, the MBAA and they can't get their acronym, but it's military, so NAVSO, or I think it's County VSO organization. So if you remember, Tony was president of the County VSO for a while. So that group is the one that he's a part of and the one that supports county level veterans actions. The MBAA is also the state organization. If you remember back when Art was here and we started getting that grant for the very first time, that was through them. There's beginning to be a little bit of competition between the two, and it's becoming a little bit of an issue, and we had a pretty lengthy conversation about it out there. There's maybe some rumblings that MBAA wants to take over all the veterans stuff in counties. Don't know if that's true, but there's certainly some. They are hiring their own VSOs that are then going into counties that they don't live in and performing the same function that Tony worked.
But are those ones that we're sending in the counties, are they licensed?
Yeah, they would have all
Same
their
way as Tony.
qualifications, yeah.
Okay.
But they wouldn't necessarily live there. And we had a pretty good discussion about it. And I know, you know, we've had a bumpy road with ours, but ours is running well now. And I think we, as a county, would support having it at that level of the board that oversees the veterans of the county. Instead of someone who comes in for 1 day a week, maybe, or 2 days a week. So it might be a little more management to do what we do and what many other counties do. Oscoda County right now has a state one coming in. They intend on hiring their own, but state law provides for the Veterans Board. We all went through that and talked about it. So if you get a chance, keep your eye on it as it goes forward, because there seems to be sort of a power struggle on who's going to start running the VSOs in the state. At least the VSOs at the county level are concerned about that.
Which of what Tony does is from, other counties. Because I know there are people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know of them.
Sure.
They're friends and they come up.
So he sends out his VSO report. I only have his visits and phone calls. He didn't break it down. I'm sure he could. But he does get people from other
I
counties
know
for sure.
4, which is, but I don't know that many people.
I actually had a friend who lives in Port Charlotte, Florida. We were talking last year. And he was going to his local officer down there and they were not, he was in Vietnam, had lots of the stuff. And so we called Tony. So we called Tony and Tony got him the right stuff to be able to get done what needed to happen. So. Yeah. EMS, we have a MFR class starting up next month. I don't know if it's full yet, but if it isn't, call Scott if you know somebody who wants to be a medical first responder. We need them in the county. And then just to touch on what Dave said, Doug is very impressed. So is Jerry Capital, and very appreciative of all the work everybody did to get those letters in. And we're almost 100%. I don't know what it was. There's a few that didn't get in, but we did a good job. Our faithful Carolyn, who got, I think you did the most, I would guess. And, you know, me and called
I
him several
like that
times.
trees down.
Yeah, so yeah, it was good. You know, we've got them in, the app is set to go. I would be remiss if I didn't say that there is some hiccups going on with all the stuff that's going on in Washington right now. It is not clean sailing. We're not really sure how this is gonna happen. In fact, I believe it's in a pause right now. And I read an email from the outgoing executive director from NTIA and I sent it to Doug. And he said they have 3 states that are on the 1 yard line and about a dozen states, which we would be on the 5 yard line, that are ready to go. And everything's kind of stopped right now, trying to deal with whatever's gonna happen. The things are cutting out and they're trying to get any waste or fraud or anything.
Well, the biggest problem they have is this has been 3 years in the making. They haven't had a single fiber line hooked up.
Right. And there's been a lot of work and a lot of stuff getting done. You know, I hate to see it paused and just go and get going. We'll see.
Okay, go ahead,
That's
sorry.
it.
Oh, that's it, okay.
Oh, no, you should, we did have another request for letter of support that Doug was gonna take care of.
Yeah,
Shawnee Communications. So that's 2 now that we're gonna use our letter of support. So it's good, glad we did that. Well, that's it.
Okay, communications in your packet, cruise at your leisure, last section for public comment. Yes,
I wanna
emphasize the concern about finances for services for residents of Elkhorn County. And I am particularly concerned about funding from Medicare and Medicaid. My familiarity working as a head nurse on a unit, if you don't have the patients coming in with insurance or Medicare, Medicaid coverage, there's a lot of services that just fall by the wayside. And I think I don't know what our liaison with the health department and Elkhorn Health Clinic has been. If they are concerned, I hope they're communicating that to you. And I hope that this board would take some positive action to notify our congressperson and our 2 state senators about federal funding, because I'm predicting that we will have even fewer services available to Alcona County residents if we lose particularly our Medicaid funding for all of the services, the people that come through the emergency room. If you can't provide the services, the emergency room gets shut down because you can't operate a system that doesn't provide adequate care. And I think the residents of Alcona County have suffered with not optimal healthcare over the years. And if we lose our Medicare and Medicaid funding, I am gravely concerned about the future of the healthcare availability for people in the county.
Thank you.
And I don't wanna, I'm not gonna question, but I wanna add on, Dave and I were at our last, something we probably should have let them know at the last meeting, but the last DHD meeting, so there's some federal dollars, as Patty alluded to, that come into DHD. If those get cut, so right now we're at about 95,000, I think our appropriations are to DHD. Yeah, I think it's so. You think 94, which it hasn't had a change in 10 years. And it came up in conversation, they're probably gonna come looking this fall for an increase in that appropriation. And it will be considerably more if there is a federal cut. And if we're gonna keep the same programs that we have in DHD.
And the grants are drying up.
Yeah, grants, I mean, that's one issue.
State grants are also.
So some of the state dollars that, are federal that flow through the state and flow into DHD. So there's gonna, if things are cut severely, they're gonna come back to the counties if we're gonna maintain the same level of service and expect it out of the general fund of the counties. And certainly on EMS, a lot of Medicaid runs on EMS, so if there's big cuts in EMS there, general fund will have to shoulder those burdens too.
Any other public comment? Okay, additional comments, concerns, commissioners? Meeting adjourned to the regular meeting Wednesday, April 2nd.
Right.